Hello, welcome to lecture number 4 in the first IHF Children's Handball Symposium. My name is Courtney Gay and I'm a member of the IHF media team and I am a moderator for today's lecture. Today we have 3 translation languages available if you are joining us on Zoom. We have French, Spanish and Arabic. You can find these by clicking the globe icon marked interpretation at the bottom of your screen. If you're watching on Facebook right now, we are going to share the link to the Zoom webinar in the comments. So if you have a Zoom account, you can feel free to join us if you would like to use the translation options as well. This first IHF Children's Handball Symposium is part of the Virtual Academy introduced by the IHF in 2020 to facilitate global online learning and licensing. All of this falls under the umbrella of the IHF Virtual Academy, available at ihfeducation.ihf.info. This first IHF Children's Handball Symposium is comprised of a total of 8 lectures presented by top children's handball experts from around the world. Today's lecture, lecture number 4, is presented by Dr Gerard Lasierra and focuses on handball as an interactive sport. This lecture is being recorded, so you will be able to access it later for on-demand viewing, both on the IHF Education Centre as well as on the IHF Facebook page. Please feel free to ask questions throughout, as we will try to address as many of those as we can in a short question and answer section at the end. So Gerard, we are ready to begin when you are. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Let's go. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to share this webinar with colleagues around the world. First of all, I would like to thank the International Handball Federation for the opportunity given to me, the trust of Ilona, Craig and Bill, my colleagues from the Handball at School Working Group, as well as the support of my fellow lecturers who are part of the Handball at School project. My thanks also to Courtney, Jessica, Faustin and Sabrina for their ongoing advice. Well, in today's presentation, we will try to explain why the handball teaching learning process should be based on the concept of interaction. The interaction could be understood as the adaptation of the player with elements that surround him or her. Sorry, Courtney, if you want, I will give you the voice to advance a picture. Don't worry, please, don't hesitate. You know, I will tell you. Okay. So I was telling you that the interaction could be understood as the adaptation of the player with elements that surround him or her. Like, for example, teammates, opponents, ball, space, time. Is it to say the players does not play alone? The agenda focuses on a methodology that establishes meaningful relationships between the player and all contextual elements in order to achieve a significant improvement in their learning the game. The player has to know how to solve the problems that arise in the game. In the introduction, we will analyze different methodological approaches we will propose or choice of methodology, and then we will develop practical examples adjust to that approach for several learning phases. I hope that you will like this topic. Let's start with the first part of this webinar. Pass, please. Another one. Thank you very much. Look at the 2 pictures, please. Apparently, they look like 2 very similar through gestures. In the picture above, you can see an athlete throwing a javelin, and below a handball player throwing a ball. We might think that we can teach those skills in a similar way if we take into account only a biomechanical view of the throwing skills. But in individual sports, like javelin throw, the athlete improves her performance in a stable environment. The effectiveness will depend exclusively on the individual capabilities. The objective will be the self-improvement of the coordination of movements, that is the search for mechanical efficiency in one skill, usually by repetition. On the contrary, in team sports like handball, the player improves his performance in a variable environment where conditions are changing. The effectiveness will depend on the ability to adapt the variability of the conditions, as are, for example, space, time, material, opponents in each contextual situation. The objective will be to be effective by modifying the repertoire of skills based on his creativity, so as not to repeat the same movement twice and surprise the opponents. Next. What are the methodological options for the teaching learning process of handball? One option is to remain with the traditional methodology, also known as techniques-oriented methodology, by using the same methods as individual sports. This is based on mastering the technical fundamentals for once consolidated, developing the right choice of them in certain tactical situations. The evolution from technique to tactics as a global process will be, first, divide training tasks into parts. Secondly, establish a progression in difficulty step by step. Finally, making decision situations by applying the technical abilities and skills acquired. The question is, who feels identified with this methodology? Next. Thank you. An alternative option is to use the contextual methodology, since team sports are different sporting domain. It is based on the player-environment interaction and on using an inverse process to that proposed by the traditional methodology. In other words, tactical effectiveness and resolution of situations are a priority in the first steps of the learning process. The evolution from tactics to technique in the global process and also in each of the sessions would be, first, understand the game. Secondly, develop tactical awareness. Finally, solve individual skill execution problems. It may be that some of you feel more identified with this second proposal. You are free to write your opinion in the chat. Next. I don't know what is your option. Probably either of the two approaches can be successful because there are not perfect methodology. In any case, I would like to emphasize that the IHF, after a long and careful discussion of experts, has a very clear choice, expressed in the Handball and School methodological booklet, which is called Teacher Guidelines. On the screen, you can see a scheme obtained from the book, which summarizes a description of the contextual methodology based on the games-based approaches, specifically on the model teaching games for understanding. Next. At this point, it is time for us to welcome our ambassador, Yuto Agarie, from Japan. Thank you.
皆さんこんにちは。ハンドボール日本代表のアガリユートです。ポジションはセンターバックをやっています。ハンドボールを始めた年齢は7歳の時です。両親がハンドボールをやっていて、で兄貴もいるんですけど、兄貴が先にハンドボールを始めて、そのハンドボールの試合を見に行った時に面白そうだなと思って、僕もやってみようって思ったのがきっかけです。最初に違うスポーツをやっていたら、野球をしていたかなと思います。理由は、やっぱり野球っていうのは小さい頃からテレビで見ていて、すごく夢のあるスポーツだなと感じました。ハンドボールは、走る、飛ぶ、投げるっていう運動要素に必要な機能性がすごく混ざっているので、小さい頃にやるスポーツにはすごくおすすめだと思います。 それでボールを投げる楽しさっていうのが、一番の醍醐味だと思うので、ぜひ小さい皆さんはそういったボールと触れ合う機会を持って、ハンドボールを楽しんでもらえたらなと思います。以上です。
There you go. Thank you for your message for children to encourage them play handball. Well, in this section, we will give some quick suggestions on how can we organize the contents for each of the class of or training sessions. In previous slides, 3 different levels of action have appeared. What does mean the level of action? Why do we recognize 3 levels: play system, group tactics, and individual actions? As you can see in the figure, the game or play system includes how a whole team plays against another team. The group tactics involves a small group of players. Individual actions are related to the interaction between a player and an opponent. But keep in mind that, for example, individual actions based on one-against-one situations can be developed with tasks of more than 2 players facing each other to achieve the goal. An easy way to organize a handball session is to start with an initial simplified game involving the whole team. Then move on to a reduced team game situation, and then do individual tactical work. At the end of the session, depending on the performance of each player, we can introduce individual improvement exercises applied to those players who have shown problems in the development of the activity. Technical training should be as individualized as possible. For us, this type of tasks, it is advisable to introduce them at the end of the session. It is much easier starting from initial tactical situations to evaluate what individual deficits our players have had, than not to introduce individual situations first and trying to guess their possible transfer to later tactical situations. This work includes, amongst others, the coordination work that our colleague Pablo Greco proposed in the last webinar. Let's go to the practical examples. All the videos that I will show you today have been recorded with a written parental. Since they haven't been training in years, I have been fortunate to receive the help of Club Handball Perdiñas, a handball club in Lleida, which is the city where I was born and where I live. Many of their current coaches are or have been my students at the University of Lleida, so it has been easy to suggest them the game situations proposal since they already knew them previously. I especially thank Luca Matei for his effort to record the sessions and carry out the training sessions in record time due to pandemic. Next, we will propose situations by learning levels. We start with the novice stage. Ilona Habkova spoke in the first webinar about game principles, and I would like to go today more in details. The acquisition of the principles of the game is the first objective, before learning the mini handball rules. The first principle is maintaining the ball as attackers and regaining the ball as defenders. It is difficult at first to play with 2 teams and with the same objective for both. Therefore, we can introduce situations of persecution of some players against the others without teams in numerical equality. I hope that the text and the associated graphic are understandable before putting the example videos. This is one of the proposals. One player faces the others. The persecuted group has the ball. The chaser tries to touch someone without the ball. The received ball saves the chased one. If someone is touched without ball, players involved change roles. Next. You can freely put the video directly. Thank you very much. In this case, we propose a variant with a smaller group. 2 against 1 situation, the chasers are the couple of players with the ball. Some pieces of advice: create adequate space to get players to make changes of direction and rhythm. The player with the ball will take 3 steps maximum and has 3 seconds of ball possession. In all the example videos, we will indicate the most important instructions that must be given to the players. Since you are teachers or coaches, I challenge you to observe in the videos which player should be given these instructions. As you will see, not all players will adjust to the dynamics of the exercise. Next. Within the same objective, we can introduce situations in which 2 groups of players have different roles, chasing or being chased. Modify the rules so that both groups become 2 teams with the same goal in a game, just like handball. 2 groups of players or 2 opposing teams of the same number of players. The attacking team tries to touch their opponents with an adapted ball. Only 3 steps can be taken in possession of the ball. The defending team must intercept a pass to attack. Next. Thank you. First, we can play with one attacking team and the other defending for a certain time. How many opponents can we touch, for instance, in 1 minute? But we evolve to a situation where defenders can intercept the ball to become attackers. It is difficult since attackers must take attention to the ball and their opponents and can only take 3 steps with the ball. So players should move without the ball to the open space. Defenders cannot just escape the ball zone. They must be away from the opponent of the ball and in turn try to intercept the pass between attackers. Next. Within the same target, now we propose a situation with 2 opposing teams of the same number of players. The attacking team tries to make 10 passes in a row. The player with the ball can only take 3 steps. The defending team tries to intercept a pass. Next. There are different possibilities how we can modify the game rules. For example, do not pass your teammate back. To variant 2, combining 1 direct pass and 1 bounce pass. And in this image, you can see that there are 2 teams and each team wear 2 colors of uniform, and you cannot to pass the teammate in the same color of uniform. Next. After the principle of maintaining the ball, we could incorporate making forward progression of the team. In the following example, we will watch 2 opposing teams of the same number of players. The goal is to put the ball in the opponent's mark. Players can take 3 steps on ball, and defenders must intercept a pass to attack. Next. There are different possibilities how to adjust rules for this game. For example, a first variant could be as follows. As player with ball is touched, the player with the ball must let the partner restart the game. We can increase the complexity of this exercise in a second variant. When being touched with ball, the player and the team lose the ball possession. Next. In our proposal, after the making forward progression principle, we should introduce the attacking the goal principle. The order in the progression is clear. We must progress to the goal to be able to shoot or to score. And before, we must keep the ball to allow us to move forward. The next example is as follows. 2 opposing teams, 4 against 4. The objective is to score inside one of the goals. The goal is valid when there's a bounce shoot received by a teammate. The scoring team keeps attacking. We can't score 2 goals in a row in the same goal. We can choose any other goal to score. The player with the ball can take a maximum of 3 steps. The defending team will attack when intercepting a pass. Next. Some remarks about this exercise. Use all the space. Get marked without the ball. It is not always positive to be close to the player with the ball. And change the goal to disrupt the opposing team. Okay. The next situation we propose has a greater tactical complexity than the previous one. 2 opposing teams, 3 against 3. The objective is to score inside one of the goals. 2 opposing teams that had to score inside one of the goals. It's mandatory to use a bounce shot. When one team scores, the other draws. The player with ball can make a maximum of 3 steps, and the defending team will attack when a pass is intercepted. Next. Keep in mind that one team attacks 2 goals and the same team defends the other 2 goals. The appropriate number of players is 3 for each team. The defenders do not play as goalkeepers. They must regain the ball. Change the orientation of the attack to one or the other goal. Once the principles of the game are understood, it is time to start playing mini handball. We can introduce it according to 2 criteria. The first is not to incorporate all the rules at once. We propose the following progression. 1, dribbling prohibited. 2, allow a single dribble. And 3, free dribbling. The other rules, as for examples, taking a maximum of 3 steps, can be applied from the beginning. Next. The second criterion is using variability of the game form proposed by modifying the number of players in numerical equality, as you see in the graph, 4 against 4 or 3 against 3. Next. By playing in numerical inequality, incorporating a supporter for both teams when they attack. Next. Playing in numerical inequality by let the goalkeeper attacks as a field player. In this case, it would be necessary to establish rules that allow the goalkeeper to return to his or her goal. For example, the defending team, once they have regained possession of the ball, must make a minimum of 3 passes to be able to shoot at goal. Next. Now follows the practical proposal for the beginner stage. For this stage, the first game system that we propose is a pursuing individual mark throughout the court. It's similar to the play system proposal introduced by Patricia Sosa in the second webinar. Some key points to consider. Individual marking assignment, absolute priority on the opponent, marking on the shooting line and lack of support, touching control on the opponent, visual control on the ball. These are key points for easy learning of marking in defense. While touching your opponent, the player is able to focus his or her vision on the ball. The goalkeeper through, it's a good idea in order to use all the space to defend. Next. Following the scheme proposed for each session, we should design reduced game situations to develop the group tactics level. I am sorry not to have enough time to develop this in details today, but I do suggest the preferential group tactics that best fit to the exposed game system. In attack, address to maintain the ball, supporting points. Is it to say, get a mark to receive? Address it to progress without ball, give and go, pass and get a mark. And in defense, individual marking, follow the opponent without helping movements. Next. After introducing group tactics situation, we can focus on individual actions. As shown in the graph, we can see that different situations can be distinguished. Attacker with ball, attacker without ball, defender in front of the opponent with ball, and defender in front of the opponent without ball, in addition to the goalkeeper situation. I suggest you try to put different action names in the blanks. Surely, many of you will fill them all. You can find all the information in the booklet. But the problem is that we cannot teach all the elements at once. What criteria do we follow to prioritize them? Next. Taking into account the characteristics of the game system used, we should consider the preferential actions that are highlighted in bold. 1. In the game without ball, the attacker without ball tries to get a mark, and the defender will use mainly the dissuasion, since he or she concentrates above all on the attacker who marks. 2. What about the play with ball? The attacker with the ball will always try to protect the ball, and we highlight the progression by dribbling, given the much free space that exists. In defense, we focus on situations to recover the ball and avoid progression. And in the end of possession, we focus on the one-against-one relationship with the goalkeeper, since most attacks are resolved with shoots from close to the goal and only with the opposition of the goalkeeper. Next. Here you have an example of exercise related to gameplay without ball. Is it to say get a mark in attack and dissuade opponent in defense? Using a delimited area, the attackers pass alternately inside and outside the area. And upon receiving and passing inside the area, the attacker must leave it. Next. The attack is not easy if many attackers enter the area at the same time. Remember to leave the area if you receive and pass the ball from inside. Get a mark without ball continuously. I think the players are faster than I can watch in this video. Sorry for that. Okay. Let's explain some proposals on the topic individual actions with ball. Remember, advance using dribbling and protect the ball in attack against avoid progression and regain the ball in defense. Two players position it as represented. Each player must turn around two cones. They move by dribbling. Whoever goes behind tries to touch his or her opponent. Next. Can you put the next slide, please? Okay. Well, look the example in this video. Do not make regulatory errors while dribbling, and do not stop do not stop dribbling, especially when changing the direction. This is another example related to play with ball. Two players with ball try to contact each other. They can't stop dribbling. Two opponents obstruct the attackers with their body. Next. Defenders must be well oriented. It can be a dangerous exercise. The attackers should not dribble with their back to their opponent, but face him. A variant could be that defenders try to steal the ball. Next. This is a final example related to play with the ball. Defender and attacker with the ball at goal distance. At a given signal, the attacker progresses by dribbling to the goal. The defender tries to steal the ball. Next. That is the easiest proposal of the exercise. Only when against when situation. We can increase the complexity of this proposal. For instance, a second defender hinders progression with his or her body as shown in the previous graphic. Or for example, that the second defender can steal the ball. Next. Here is an example of 1-against-1 game between player and goalkeeper. Next. This is an easy competitive 1-against-1 shooter goalkeeper. It's really easy. We need to keep an appropriate distance between player and goalkeeper, not more than 2 meters. Attacker gets the goal if the ball is received for his or her partner in between the marks. If the goalkeeper saves the ball, changing rules. In this part, we show you some practical examples addressed to the beginners intermediate stages, focused on players between 11 and 12 years old. For this stage, the game system that we propose is a supporting individual mark in half court. Some key points to consider that are different and more complex related to a pressuring individual mark previously explained. 1, absolute priority on the ball, not in the direct opponent. 2, orientation to player with ball and direct opponent simultaneously. It's a really difficult behavior for young players. 3, in defense, focus on 1-against-1 and also in supporting teammates. 4, the farther away from the ball, the farther away from the opponent. And 5, and last, supporting actions increased by space reduction. Next. We do suggest the preferential group tactics that best fit to the exposed game system. In attack, addressed to progress with or without ball. Gap attacking, switched play, and crossing. In defense, supporting or mutual helping actions. Next. Taking into consideration the characteristics of the game, we should remember, 1, in the game without the ball, the attacker without ball tries to get a mark and the defender will use mainly the interception, since he or she concentrates simultaneously on the ball and on the attacker who marks. 2, in the game with the ball, the attacker with the ball will always try to protect the ball. And we highlight the action of overcoming, given the reduced space and the supporting defensive actions. And in defense, we focus on situations to regain the ball and avoid overcoming. In the end of possession, we focus on the making decision process, the player can select between passing or shooting. And in defense, we focus on dissuading or intercepting the pass. The defensive system makes it difficult to start defensive blocking work. Next. Here you have a proposal for individual actions without the ball. Get a mark in attack and intercept the ball in defense. 3 players outside the circle and 2 inside. The outside players try to touch the inside players with a holding ball. The inside players try to intercept a pass. Next. Okay, thank you. Some pieces of advice. No one can step into the circle. The attackers must move without the ball to disorient the defenders. And defenders must avoid being touched with the ball, but must also attempt to intercept a pass. Next. This is a more complex situation addressed on getting a mark for attackers and intercept the ball for defenders. Game situations are based on the ideas from Philippe Pinot at 1919s. For attackers and for defenders, one supporting player inside the circle. Attackers pass the ball and must keep it moving. The goal is to make a bounce pass to the supporter. Defenders try to intercept any pass. Neither attackers nor defenders can enter into the circle. Next. Some remarks about this exercise. The attackers should move with a ball, pass to right or left, give passes with high speed, and the defenders should pressure to on-ball player, helping defender to attacker with ball, and try to intercept passes to supporter. Next. This is a 2 against 2 situation plus supporter. A maximum of 3 passes are allowed. The defenders in 2 defensive lines. The most advanced dissuade a pass from an attacker. The back defender tries to intercept a long pass. Next. The defenders are in 2 defensive lines. The most advanced dissuade a pass from supporter. Consequently, the back defender tries to intercept a long pass. Only 2 passes allowed for both attackers. Next. Regarding to individual actions with ball, get and mark in attack and avoid it in defense, this is our first proposal. 1 against 1 situation in limited space. The attacker passes to one of the supporters. The defender must touch the mark on the side of the supporter. The attacker, in the first instance, takes advantage of free space. If not possible, body fake, changing direction toward the goal with 3 steps. Next. Don't put the video. Sorry, stop the video a moment, please. Sorry me. Okay, sorry me. Well, because this is a challenge for you, it's a challenge for participants. The exercise on video doesn't fit with the objective. My first idea was to eliminate this situation, since it presented organizational problems. But I think it's positive to keep it, to make clear the importance of the organization, of the tasks, and the instructions that are given to the children. Remember that the target is overcoming with ball. What do you think is wrong with the limited space for the defender, behavior of supporter, and behavior of attackers. Send your answers. I wish you are right. Put the video, please. Thank you very much. You should guess what are the problems with this exercise. It accomplishes the target proposal? I don't think so. So you must guess what are the problems, the organizational problems with this exercise. Next. A second exercise related to get a mark in attack and keeping the mark in defense. This is a 1-against-1 situation on delimited space. The attacker passes and receives the ball to overcome the opponent and penetrate between marks. The defender keeps holding a ball. The attacker is not allowed to dribbling the ball, only to make 3 steps. Next. Some remarks, for instance, avoid a body contact with the defender. Use the 3 steps to move around the defender, not to go straight to his or her. Don't use the dribbling. Neither take more than 3 steps. It's interesting to develop the same exercise by using a 2-against-2 or a 3-against-3 game. Next. Our last proposal is related to the decision-making process at the end of the ball possession. A difficult choice between throwing and passing. It's the key point of decision-making process. Pass or shoot in attack, dissuade or intercept in defense. This is a situation 3-against-2. The central player with ball penetrate to through. If not possible, pass the ball to one of the side players. As a maximum, 3 passes to shoot. Next. The player who starts with the ball should not use a dribbling. This player must take 3 steps in order to go shoot at goal. Pass the ball if he's not able to throw. And it is very important to regain position after a pass to avoid interception. Well, now it's time to present the challenge from today's Ambassador for Children.
これのポイントは、まず大きく腰を反らしてで離すときにボールに回転をかけます。回転をかけて、バウンドしたときに早く腰を引くことがポイントになります。
Well, I think the challenge is clear. Thank you, Yuto. Well, what about our challenge for participants? Remember, the exercise was initially oriented to overcoming with ball in attack. We are going to watch the video again. And while the questions are, what's wrong with delimited space? I don't know if video is on now. Well, in any case, the question was, what was the delimited space? What happened with this question? What was wrong with the behavior of supporters? And what was wrong with the behaviors of attackers? I don't know if the video should be put again, or it's not necessary. Don't worry, not necessary. So Courtney appears. Hello, Courtney. Well, I think the video was showed before, so no, don't worry about that. And who is the winner?
Oh, I think we have many winners.
Okay.
We've received a lot of answers. So we have, let's look at the first one, the delimited space. So people are saying it is a very small space and the supporters are not moving. This is one problem. I'm just looking through the answers. Okay. Yes, a lot of people highlight the behavior of the supporters, which is the second question. This is one thing a lot of people are focused on, is that the supporters are not moving. Okay. Yes, and but most people are saying the space is just too limited in response to the first question.
Okay, okay. So, well, I hope they are right. In fact, and that's not a winner, so everybody wins this time. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, okay. So, well, in fact, to overcome the opponent, the space was too much higher. Because if you look at the video, you will see that attackers tend to get unmarked without ball, not without ball. The behavior of supporters, yeah, you are right. You are right. They are in a static way, but also they pass too late the ball. So the attackers take advantage of the free space to get unmarked without ball, not to take 3 steps to overcome the opponent with the ball. A lot of questions, but thanks for your participation, and thanks you, Courtney, for your answering. Okay, thank you. So we have reached the end of the presentation, you know. The next, please. You can push you can put the next slide, please.
Okay, it seems we're having a small problem.
Okay,
sharing the presentation is on the last slide, and
it's only one slide. Don't worry, it's almost perfect. Don't worry about that. So, well, if you can't show it's really simple. As a conclusion, I will point out some key elements. Handball is a team sport. It is possible to learn handball by using a tactical to technique approach. First step, okay. we must be patient. Don't worry. I was telling you there are preferential relationships with our proposal between the progressive choice of a play system and its transfer with certain group tactics and individual actions. I hope you found this work useful. In any case, thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Gerard. So we have a few questions already.
Okay.
So let's begin with, somebody asked, why is it so important to train children without using goalposts at first?
Without you, sorry?
Without using the actual goal.
Ah, the goal. Okay, okay. Well, it's a good question, because there's a game principles, and the other on the application of these game principles is that the first objective should be maintaining the ball. When you maintain the ball, don't lose the ball, you are able to progress, to making forward progression with the ball. And then we must remark the orientation to the goal. So it's a process. But the first principle, we can get a goal if we progress properly in the space and after keeping or maintaining the ball. So it's a process. Okay, that's the reason why at the beginning I'm not really pro using the goal directly.
Okay. Somebody asked, with the examples you showed earlier, in the novice stage, you showed some clips with where dribbling was not allowed, but then in another session, dribbling was very important for gaining space and searching for free space. Why is this? Why is it more important to avoid dribbling in the novice stage?
Okay, in the novice stage, perhaps I didn't explain it properly, but in the novice stage, the goal is that at the end of this stage, our players are introduced to mini handball, but not using the whole rules, because it's really difficult. I can put you an example. If I have a player who never practiced handball before, and the referee tell him or her, you must bouncing the ball, because if not, you are committing passes. Well, what happened with this player? He starts bouncing the ball, but they don't look anything more on the game. So at the beginning, for me, it's good to use the not bouncing at all. Only 3 steps, and then 1 bouncing, and after that we can free dribbling, you know. But this is in novice, because it's impossible that the players can be aware of all the rules simultaneously. So I think we must progressively introduce the rules. And this is my proposal. So at the end of the novices, they can play with all the rules, but we must have a little bit progression, not all the rules at the same time.
Okay, we have several questions about defense.
Okay.
So let's start with, somebody asked, can we use 1-5 defense with beginners?
1-5.
I don't know if you mean 1-5 or 5-1.
Okay.
Maybe we can talk about both. Okay.
It's a good question too. As you see, it's impossible to explain anything and to explain all the stages. For me, it's important to start with individual defense. I proposed 2 different models. one before the other. This is the progression. And after that, when our players are capable to defend in a supporting defense, supporting individual defense, then is the moment to apply a zonal defense. Our colleague is thinking about 1-5. For instance, in the next step, is it to say up 11-year-olds, I will propose, but it will be in the next webinar, a 3-3 defense. We should incorporate progressively the zone aspects, what implies defend in zone. The most important thing in that case is not my opponent and is not the ball, is the space that I share with my partners, you know. But it's not a bad idea to apply an open defense 1-5, but it's a zone defense, a zonal defense. I don't know if I use the right name, but this is the idea. Okay.
So at this early age, is the goal in defense more to cut the ball without trying to stop the attacker?
Yeah.
That's the question. So the answer is yes.
Well, sorry me, but they don't understand what was the question. Please repeat me.
The question is the goal at this age to simply try to cut the ball, to get the ball, without focusing on the attackers themselves, as you do as you get older? So
well, okay, perhaps I really still without understand exactly what was the question, but I will respond. Don't worry. Well, this is a progression work, you know. In fact, the players must is the relation between player and environment what can improve their teaching learning process. So the player, in all the situations that we proposed in this presentation, they must resolve all the situations, taking into account all the elements that appears. But we focus on some of them in any stage of their learning. That is the point. And the basic idea is that we must propose a play or game system, and depending on the play system, we can focus on some of the group tactics elements and some of the individual actions. That is the idea, the basic idea.
Okay, I think we will just do one more. This is a bit interesting for you, I think. Somebody asked, sorry, I'm just trying to get the question up on my screen. Yes. If you are working with adults who are beginners, would you recommend the same process, starting to train without a goal as you did with children? Or would you approach differently with adults who are beginners?
What's the meaning of adults?
Or adult, like a not a child. So when it's like
adult, sorry for my bad English.
No, it's my accent.
Well, no. I'm not in favor of trying to compare adults with kids. I think it's a different handball, and we must prepare the young players to be a good athletes, a good handball players as an adult way. But perhaps we should not watch TV matches, and then focus on the young players who have another problems and they need to resolve it. I think that one of the problems that coaching has been presenting in this time is that we try to look at watch TV, see what the best players in the world, what Yuto and the Japanese team and what everybody try to do, and then we apply because we want that our players plays similar to this big star, and this is for me not the good solution.
Okay, we will wrap up there. Thank you so much, Gerard. We have a lot of positive comments thanking you for this lecture.
Okay, I'm so sorry because you have a lot of job. I don't know if it's my fault, but I'm so sorry for that. I hope the message can be sent and received, and I hope that always was understood. I don't know. We will all continue enjoying handball. So this is my final speech for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so everybody, we are back again next Tuesday, the 18th of May at 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time with our next lecture, and that is called Scoring the First Goal by Dr. Milan Petronijevic. So we'll see you next Tuesday, and thank you very much for attending today. Goodbye, everybody.